We understand that the two suspects were here on the streets of Woolwich just days ago handing out leaflets preaching Islam, but there's a big leap, isn't there, from handing out leaflets to committing murder here on the streets of Woolwich. And this morning those two suspects are still in hospital under armed guards, but we understand they're not well enough yet to be formally interviewed by the police, but I'm sure that is something they'll want to do and want to do very soon.
Jonathan, thanks very much indeed. We're joined now by Alexander Meleagrou-Hitchens, an expert in radicalisation. I think our first thoughts are with the friends and family of Lee Rigby, aren't they, and what they're going through. And then after that, you start to wonder and fear how these two men could have become radicalised in this way. How does that happen?
Yes, of course. I mean, first it's worth mentioning that there isn't one single path, there isn't one single way, there isn't one single profile. These guys, these people who act out like this come from all sorts of backgrounds, all sorts of social, ethnic backgrounds, and all sorts of sort of educational backgrounds. So it's very kind. What will generally we see happen is it seems what happened with at least one of these guys is that they get in with a certain group of people who have a certain understanding of the religion that is pushed on them through a number of years. Sometimes it can take years, sometimes it can take weeks. It depends on the person.
The fact that also one of them seemingly was, grew up in a middle-class background, was also a Christian.
Yeah. Yes, of course, and it's not the first, and likely not the last time that someone who's converted gets involved in this, because often the problem is that people, I mean, it's very rare, but when some people who convert, they'll convert to a very doctrinaire and extreme form of the religion immediately and adopt that as the religion that they convert to, and this is very likely what happened.
But it's not the true meaning of the religion. That's the whole thing, isn't it? We hear about these hate preachers constantly in the news. We're probably giving them too much time, to be honest with you. But we hear about them preaching hatred, and there's no hatred in Islam.
No, and I mean that's often also a discussion perhaps for theologians and all that. But the crucial thing to understand here, as far as these preachers go, is it's the form of Islam that they're teaching is not as a religion or as a spiritual thing. It's as a political system, political ideology. And once many people, we hear the word Islamist used a lot now with what's happening in the Middle East. There are a lot of people who do have that interpretation of Islam. That doesn't make you immediately violent, but it is certainly a prerequisite.
Is there anything that can be done? Is there a solution? I know you've done a lot of thinking and research into this, to pinpoint youngsters who are vulnerable.
Well, there is. I mean, the government runs what's called the Prevent strategy. And within that, there's something called the Channel Project, which is specifically designed to target people who they deem to be vulnerable, and they intervene sort of before they move on to any next stage of radicalization or radicalism. So there are ways of identifying them, and there are people whose jobs it is, who are professionals at this, who can identify this and convince people before it's too late to change their views.
Alexander, thank you very much.
Thanks. Thanks for
you.
joining us this morning. It's 16 minutes past 10.